Episode 56QW February 16, 2024. Libelled climate scientist wins $1 million defamation case. In this episode 56QW. 1. The United Kingdom, where wood burner receives a sentence. 2. Other news headlines from the United Kingdom. 3. United States articles about the U.S. EPA's new PM 2.5 safe limit of 9 micrograms per cubic meter annually. 4. RAWSEP View. Remember Donald Trump going into a California forest and suggesting, if it were swept, that would solve the problem of forest fires? 5. Canada, British Columbia, March 2024. 6. Canada, Quebec. Quebec temporarily bans all wood fire appliances citing poor climate. 7. Texas. Texas Children's Hospital. Libelled climate scientist wins $1 million defamation case. 8. Research papers on PM 2.5. 9. Arizona on stricter EPA standards. 10. California on stricter EPA standards. 11. Colorado prescribed burn. 12. Connecticut and burn off starts a prairie grass fire and a man killed in a house fire. 13. Florida prescribed burn. 14. Indiana, Michigan City homeless camp, wood burning, fire behind Walmart. 15. Michigan, Granville, storage units lost in fire. 16. New Hampshire wood stoves cause harm to human health. 17. North Carolina wood burning heating system uncritically awarded $9,000, despite harm to human health. 18. Oregon, City of Springfield changes debris burning policy, allowing no more green wood to be burned. RAWSEP View, wood burning, whether green wood or dry wood harms human health. 19. Utah, Salt Lake City struggle for clean air. 20. Vermont, biomass burning at Springfield Library harms human health. 21. Wisconsin, RAWSEP View, biomass burning harms human health. A lumber company uses biomass to sell power to the electric grid. 22. Canada, a city's 2-day fireplace ban. A villages with stove exchange program, with incentives on top of a rebate. 23. Australia, New South Wales, Armidale, air quality on the radar at a council meeting. 24. Montenegro, for people in a makeshift Romani settlement killed by a fire caused by a wood-burning stove. 25. Azerbaijan, Tashkent is one of the world's most PM 2.5 polluted cities. 26. Cambodia urged to join the Clean Air Strategy Initiative to reduce PM 2.5 pollution. 27. China, study finds suicide rates spike when air quality drops. 28. India headlines. 29. Thailand headlines. 30. Fool's Corner, indoor residential wood burners. 1. United Kingdom, where a wood burner receives a sentence. RAWSEP View. The description of the health problems for near neighbors of wood burners is familiar to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. The fact that the perpetrator wood burner was brought to justice and sentenced to 260 hours of unpaid work in the following instance is heartening, although that type of sentence doesn't seem much of a deterrent. The defense of mental illness is a legal ploy, but near neighbors are often reduced to speculating about the mental stability and cognition of indoor wood burners, since they are threatening the health of themselves as well as their near neighbors. And for what? The claim of home heating in the vast majority of cases is not the reason for wood burning, since alternative, cheaper methods of home heating are available and usually installed across the residential areas where the indoor wood burner lives. The choice of solid fuel to burn is usually also emphasized by defenders of wood burning, as if particulate matter from solid fuel burning has to be broken down into percentage of elements in the air before attention is paid to the real harm in real time of particulates starting with elemental carbon or molecular carbon. PM 2.5 in aggregate can be measured reliably and accurately with low-cost resident-owned purple air monitors. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates has started auto-calculating levels above national ambient air quality, NOx, standards across the state of Wisconsin as a whole, and in places around the world such as Oxford in the United Kingdom, Paris, France, Dresden, Germany, and Kiev, Ukraine to show the ease with which purple air measurements can be downloaded and analyzed to show levels of harm to human health. Please email rawspresidents@gmail.com with any questions about RAWSEP Excel templates for analyzing PM 2.5 levels for multiple purple air monitors. Excel templates can be found at https://rawsepresidents.com. Readers and YouTube and TikTok viewers may have noticed in the last few weeks that Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates has made a breakthrough in the ease of auto-calculating percent of time in a 3-day period that PM 2.5 is at or above the new EPA safe limit of 9 micrograms per cubic meter, at or above 15, at or above 25, at or above 35, at or above 45, at or above 55, at or above 65, and at or above 75 micrograms per cubic meter PM 2.5 in a 3-day period. There is a demonstration video of how to do this yourself as a citizen scientist at episode 56QQ, where multiple QQ questions are answered. The bottom line is that Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates is interested in an outcome, shutting down indoor residential wood burning, one indoor residential wood stove at a time if necessary. Just as the most idealistic healthcare systems are interested in outcome-based healthcare, where the number of patients saved from death from identified killers like cancer are measured and celebrated, and the other measurements, such as the amount of money or time spent achieving the objective of saving lives only supports the ultimate goal, saving lives. Usually a lot of money and time has to be spent to save patient lives, but if there are breakthroughs that don't line the pockets of the healthcare industry as the primary incentive, then more power to the breakthroughs. Preventive medicine and adopting healthy lifestyles is no substitute for medical care, but can be effective. Preventing solid fuel burning in the first place, preventing indoor residential wood burning is the logical and humane way to start. The positive outcome will be immediate, and the predictable long-term adverse health consequences to near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners will be averted. There is a news adage, if it bleeds, it leads. The title of episode 56 QW is Libelled Climate Scientist Wins $1 Million Defamation Case. But placed first in this episode is a case in the United Kingdom where a businessman concurrently believed he could do anything he wanted to on his own land, but also later argued in his defense that he is mentally ill, had a headline in the Daily Mail. There was a sentence, 260 hours of unpaid labor, which, if you think about it, is not onerous in particular, and does not compensate victims of the air pollution he inflicted on them over long periods of time. When the near neighbors of this wood burner develop cancers and other predictable outcomes to exposure to air pollution, this verdict will seem even more like the slap on the wrist that it is. But billowing smoke followed by rescues leads on the news all the time. This time the victims of the air pollution had their words recorded in court, in detail. That representation of the words of victims is a rarity, as is a near neighbor-centric verdict rather than wallowing in the perspective of a self-described mentally ill wood burner. From the news article, the businessman, who later told the authorities it was his land and he could do what he wanted, started to burn wood which created thick, strong chemical smoke billowing out into the community. The fires, which could burn for days, meant locals were unable to take advantage of their gardens during the unseasonally warm weather, when the country was ordered to stay indoors as coronavirus spread. Residents were unable to even open a window but still suffered the effects of the thick smoke, which they could actually taste. One neighbor said the smoke was thick and black and caused her to develop a cough. Another said it was as if he and his family were drowning in smoke, and it had an acidic taste. A third said smoke would catch the back of her throat and was foul and pungent. The recorder added, each of the residents graphically described the effect of the fires and the smoke on their day-to-day lives and use of their gardens during that first lockdown when the weather was so good. They couldn't open windows, even when windows were closed tight. Acrid smoke was leaking into their properties. The United Kingdom. Businessman prevented neighbors using their gardens during warm lockdown. Daily Mail, the businessman, had purchased land in 2017 and in lockdown he started to burn wood. A businessman prevented neighbors using their gardens during warm lockdown weather by burning waste at Countryside Beauty Spot and leaving locals drowning in smoke. Were you affected by the smoke? Email miriam.cooper@mailonline.co.uk. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. February 14, 2024. Shortly before lockdown in early 2020, he began the burning. The businessman was found guilty last October 2023, following an 8-day trial, of operating a waste site without an environmental permit and burning waste in a way likely to cause pollution to the environment or harm to human health. Recorders said there were around 10 fires during a 5-month period and some burned during the night, into the following days, and the residents' lives were entirely restricted. The businessman was sentenced to a 12-month community order with 260 hours unpaid work. The businessman has since sold the land and is now of limited means and has no assets. The businessman's defender said the businessman has mental health problems which could have affected his decision-making. The Environment Agency Area Environment Manager in the Northeast said, "Our priority is the protection of people and the environment, and the businessman's offending caused misery for the community, clearly impacting on their health and well-being and causing pollution to the local area. Our officers have worked hard to bring this case to court, and the investigation demonstrates that we will not tolerate illegal waste activity. I'd like to thank the community who gave vital evidence in court and who have supported us throughout this investigation to ensure the businessman was brought to justice for his crimes." He added, "The businessman has shown a complete disregard for the community and the environment, and his appearance at court sends out a message to others that we will take action to tackle waste crime. Anyone who sees illegal waste activity can contact the Environment Agency." Comments. There was a factory behind where I live. Had fires weekly burning their waste, they wouldn't pay for waste disposal. They burned rubber, plastic, treated wood, food waste, metal, etc. I informed the council. They visited. They believed the lies they were told and left. I had photographic evidence, but they weren't interested. Just glad they're not there now. They were a nightmare, for plenty of reasons. Some muppet around here does the same thing the moment the sun comes out. They burn rubbish in the garden that stinks. Are you sure it's a garden fire? We have a neighbor who burns all their plastic waste in their wood-burning stove. It stinks to high heaven and is very harmful to the environment and to health. We reported it to the council, and they didn't even bother getting back to us. And the fire brigade said they would only get involved if the fire was out of control. Tried the old, it's my land, I can do what I want. And when that didn't work, suddenly developed mental health problems that may have affected his decision-making. Yeah, right? Another ridiculously soft sentence. Businessman with mental problems? More like businessman with good lying skills. There it is, waving around like a bouncy castle in a hurricane. The mental health issues get out of anything card. Why can people not just own their actions? I feel so sorry for those unfortunate people who suffer daily from debilitating mental health illness. This kind of tomfoolery makes light of their personal suffering. It is so totally true. Idiots like this who use mental health as an excuse diminish those of us who truly suffer with things like PTSD. Surely he must be breaking the law? Selfish is as selfish does. At least he now knows he cannot simply do whatever he wants when his actions affect the health and well-being of his neighbors and wider community. 2. Other news headlines from the United Kingdom, where indoor residential wood burning produces more PM 2.5 pollution than transportation pollution, and where the government is taking measures to regulate or stop indoor residential wood burning. Air pollution from domestic wood burning increased 56% in 10 years. Air quality news: wood burning is once again on the naughty step. The emissions covered in Domestic wood-burning pollution increased 56% in 10 years. Air quality news: the emissions covered in these figures are particulate matter, PM10 and PM2. United Kingdom, Elmbridge Borough Council to deter wood-burning after DEFRA grant. BBC News: a council in Surrey is to discourage wood-burning after securing government funding to encourage clean air. Elmbridge Borough Council was given. The authority said the main pollutants in Elmbridge were oxides of nitrogen, NOx, and particulate. DEFRA estimates that particulates from wood. Environmental campaigner warns of dangers over wood-burning stoves on physical. Daily Record would hear that the smell of wood smoke is in the air day and night. Sometimes I look down into the heart of my village and it's just shrouded in smoke. Fires in West Earl Township raise concerns about local burning ordinance. Lancaster Watchdog, Lancaster Online. Wood, and are limited to 3 feet in height. The township even restricts the burning of tree branches. Rigel suggests anyone interested in burning. Increase in wood burners offsets cuts in pollution from cars. Official data: Bracknell News: smaller particles, known as PM 2.5, decreased by 2% between 2021 and 2022, and have fallen 88% since 1970. Burning fuels in homes, largely wood burned. Increase in wood burners offsets cuts in pollution from cars. Official data: Evening Standard. Government statistics reveal little change in health-harming particulate matter in 2022. Burning fuels in homes, largely wood burned, and wood burners and open fires contributed 29% of total PM 2.5 emissions in 2022. London. Increase in wood burners offsets cuts in pollution from cars. Official data: The Northern Echo. Increase in wood burners offsets cuts in pollution from cars. Official data: Wimbledon Times. Burning fuels in homes, largely wood burned, and wood burners and open fires contributed 29% of total PM 2.5 emissions in 2022. Middle-class trend of fitting wood-burning stoves is undermining fight against air pollution. MSN: wood-burning at home is now producing more pollution than road transport. 22% of the most harmful pollution is from wood-burning, versus 18% from roads. Middle-class trend of fitting wood-burning stoves is undermining fight against air pollution. Daily Mail. Pollution from cars, trucks, and electricity generation. Wood-burning at home is now producing more particulate pollution than road transport. Data: efforts to fight air pollution are being undermined by the middle-class trend of fitting wood-burning stoves, official figures show. Report finds Northern Line has highest dust levels. BBC Council to deter wood-burning after DEFRA funding. Elmbridge Borough Council wants to discourage burning. Rise in wood-burner use offsets pollution drop from cars and electricity. Manchester Evening News: increases in wood-burners in homes and the use of biomass in industry have offset drops in pollution from cars and electricity generation. Emissions of particulate matter from burning wood in homes have risen by 56% in the decade to 2022, according to the data. PM 2.5 emission reductions largely offset by increase in domestic burning, official figures show. ENDS report. However, the statistics also reveal that between 2012 and 2022, PM 2.5 emissions from domestic burning increased by 19%. Domestic combustion of wood. United Kingdom. Scientists probe high and low in rare study of winter air pollution. The globe and male winter air is different, colder, denser, more stable. It is also affected by different sources of pollution, including furnaces, wood burning. Tell us about the impacts of wood burning. London Borough of Richmond-upon-Thames. We partnered with other local authorities to highlight the impact fireplaces and wood-burning stoves have on London's toxic air, and now we want wood-burning stoves largely offset fall in particulate pollution from roads. In UK, The Guardian. A rise in harmful emissions from wood-burning stoves has largely offset decreases in particulate pollution from road and energy sources in the UK. Pollution from heating homes using solid fuel such as wood increased by 19% from 2012 to 2022, data shows. United Kingdom. Drax. UK largest renewable energy supplier building Longview plant along Columbia River. Longview Daily News. Burning of wood pellets is not much more sustainable than burning coal or other fossil fuels. A communications manager for Drax. 3. United States articles about the U.S. EPA's new PM 2.5 safe limit of 9 micrograms per cubic meter annually. Chair Rogers opening remarks at Environment Subcommittee hearing on modernizing House Energy and Commerce Committee. Republicans. Last week, the Biden administration's EPA finalized a standard on fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5. A decision that will be devastating for American Dems mum on Biden's newest air quality regulation threatening industry in their states. The Daily Caller. Notably, EPA data demonstrates that seasonally adjusted national average PM 2.5 concentration decreased by 42% between 2000 and 2022, over which time EPA finalizes rule on particulate matter despite industry objections. IR the Institute for Energy Research. Biden's EPA has finalized a much stricter particulate matter, PM 2.5, standard that will control industrial and other emissions such as dust, and EPA tightens rules on some air. NPR News. Behind the headlines. NLM. NSPI ambient fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, is the world's leading environmental health risk factor. Reducing the PM 2.5 disease burden requires specific. The new particulate standard and the courts, legal planet EPA has just issued a rule tightening the air quality standard to 9 for PM 2.5, the tiny particles most dangerous to health, from an annual average of 12 micrograms per cubic meter annually. EPA significantly lowers the national ambient air quality standard for fine particulate matter JD Supra. Particulate matter, commonly referred to as PM 2.5. The EPA announced that the annual standard for PM 2.5 will be lowered to 9 UG/M3. EPA tightens the annual PM 2.5 standard, creating compliance challenges across the West. JD Supra. EPA retained the other particulate matter standards, including the 24-hour PM 2.5, 35 micrograms per cubic meter, and RAWSEP View. Although commenters suggested a reduction to 25 micrograms per cubic meter in a 24 period. This is a standard for industry, usually. 4. RAWSEP View. Remember Donald Trump going into a California forest and suggesting, if it were swept, that would solve the problem of forest fires? Trump only followed in the footsteps of those prescribing burns to solve the problem of forest fire burns. One solution better than prescribed burns is stopping indoor residential wood burning to start with. And that would require personal actions by individuals to take responsibility for their contribution to the pollution that harms the health of their near neighbors as well as contributing PM 2.5 and CO2 to the world, which hastens climate change. Which climate change, then, in a feedback loop, causes wildfires. Wood burning emissions are wood burning emissions whether they come from wood burning, wildfires, or from indoor residential wood burning. One conventional argument used to justify continued indoor residential wood burning is that if there were only enough prescribed burns, there would be no pollution from wood burning wildfires. Indoor residential wood burning's emissions of PM 2.5 and CO2 are ignored in this argument, although indoor residential wood burning is a great contributor to the wood burning emission of PM 2.5 pollution which harms human health, and a great contributor to PM 2.5 and CO2 emissions that contribute to climate change, which climate change in a feedback loop stokes wildfires. However, RAWSEP's editor read this whole opinion from the New York Times and summarizes it before excerpting some key phrases from the article. The New York Times opinion writer does not list stopping indoor residential wood burning as one of his list of choices to slow climate change and slow wildfires. Indoor residential wood burning doesn't exist in his consciousness. While stopping indoor residential wood burning would be one of the few positive steps his readers could take to make a personal contribution to slowing climate change and slowing wildfire eruptions. The author notes that in February 2024 there were wildfires in Chile. There was a wildfire in Lahaina on the island of Maui in Hawaii 6 months ago. In 2023, little of the United States was burned in wildfires, in comparison to the amount of land areas burned in Canada. In 2023 in Greece, a wildfire became the largest in the history of the European Union. In Australia, more land was burned by wildfires in 2023 than in Canada. First on his list of choices is prescribed burns. Second on his list is people choosing where they live and not living next to wildfires. Third on his list is. Now it becomes obvious that this article is meant as a joke, and it becomes obvious that no helpful items are on the list. A giant beach umbrella over the earth. But the New York Times writer comes down to earth long enough to note that on days when California experienced both extreme heat and wildfire smoke, there were disproportionate numbers of hospitalizations for heart and lung ailments. Does this concern the New York Times opinion writer? Obviously not. At this point, a rational individual concerned with human health would look around for sources of emissions that contribute to adverse health effects, if not sources of emissions that contribute to climate change, in the feedback loop of climate change, wildfires. But no. The New York Times writer retreats to a failed system of fire suppression by setting fires, called controlled or prescribed burns. Fun for pyromaniacs, but as deadly as wildfires to our health as actual wildfires. Think about prevention. Think about stopping burning things, and begin with stopping burning wood in indoor residential settings. It is not contrarian to suppress fires. It is contrarian to ignore the source of fires that can be prevented. The affluent, of which the New York Times writer is one, may hold on to their indoor residential wood fires and their forest policy of wood burning, like an NRA member holds on to his gun. But the less affluent who live hyperlocally near them are aware of the pollution that these indoor residential wood fires cause, and aware that they contribute to global warming and wildfires which precede and follow global warming. Where you live can be a choice if you are affluent, but the choice on whether to live hyperlocally next to an indoor residential wood burner or not is usually not on the list of choices of the less affluent. Fires are the sum of our choices. https://www.newyorktimes.com/2024/02/climate-climate-change-urban-firestorm.html February 14th, 2024. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. But where people choose to live matters, too. In the United States, you hear a somewhat contrarian explanation that emphasizes fire suppression rather than warming. In the early 1900s, Americans put out fires. The landscape accumulated excess dry forest. The baseline was set by fire suppression, forest management, and the tremendous expansion of human settlement into the wildland-urban interface. Fire suppression and more people much closer to the risk of fire. Humans have raised global temperatures by a total of about 1.7 degrees Celsius, or 3.1 Fahrenheit, not 1.2 degrees Celsius. Astronomers and physicists are proposing the equivalent of a giant beach umbrella floating in outer space. On days when California experienced both extreme heat and wildfire smoke, there were disproportionate numbers of hospitalizations for heart and lung ailments. The impact was greater in communities with lower income, education, health insurance coverage, and tree cover. A new study shows that wildfire smoke will worsen. Wildfires have raged out of control in places such as Australia and Canada and Siberia and Chile that haven't used the same fire suppression doctrine as the United States did. According to some estimates, 20 million acres in California need to burn for its forest to re-equilibrate, a landmass of nearly 1/5 of the state. In Chile, too, there are patterns of development and forest policy that might have prevented the loss of those 100 lives and those 15,000 homes. 5. Canada, British Columbia, March 2024. RAWSEP View. Focus on where to place purple air PM 2.5 monitors, hyperlocalized next to indoor residential wood burners. Focus on preventing asthma, not as a first priority starting asthma camps. It is unclear from this article what asthma camps do. You don't have to be allergic to wildfire smoke to be physically harmed by wood smoke. Sealed homes are the only way to avoid an indoor wood burner's smoke in the ambient air that threatens to enter your home if a neighbor burns wood. It is probably true that if you burn wood in a sealed home, you may experience a higher level of wood smoke in indoor air, but most of the wood smoke is directed outside for the near neighbors to experience. Since it is known that wood smoke exacerbates asthma, the best prevention of asthma in this area is to stop burning wood. Extensive research has already been done about the link between asthma and wood smoke. Monitors should also be hyperlocalized next to indoor residential wood burners, with the objective of shutting down polluting indoor residential wood burning. If monitors are placed on the edges of forests to attempt to monitor only wildfires when they occur, prevention by shutting down indoor residential wood burning is not supported by the PM 2.5 level data caused by indoor residential wood burning that needs to be collected. Carter's project monitors to be installed in March. 100 Mile House has been without a reliable air quality monitoring system for years. https://www.1005press.net/local-news/carters-project-monitors-in-March-71147555. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission. Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. November 24, 2023. The BC Lung Foundation will be installing 100 purple air monitors in the region in March 2024. Chris Lamb, CEO of the BC Lung Foundation, addressed a meeting of the South Cariboo Joint Committee November 20th on how best to implement Carter's project in 100 Mile House. The project involves the installation of 100 purple air indoor and outdoor air quality monitors to help people understand what is in the air they breathe and how they can protect their lung health. The truth is we hadn't really heard what had happened to Carter and what was happening in 100 Mile House with the intense wildfire smoke you were experiencing, Lamb said. Once they became aware of the situation, they realized something needed to be done to change things. There is an enormous gap in air quality monitoring in 100 Mile House and the surrounding area, he said. There used to be a provincial monitoring station here, but it was decommissioned 2 to 3 years before the pandemic due to being expensive to maintain and the difficulty in making sure it was running constantly and producing accurate data. With the nearest monitor 81 kilometers away, getting monitors into the area is the priority. They are due to be installed in March, prior to wildfire season. Lamb said they have contacted a local meteorologist who will help identify regions where it makes the most sense to have monitors. Where monitors should be installed is something they need to discuss. Read more. 100 Mile House's Carter vs. Still Moving Mountains in BC. Count Dave Mingo said there are several geographically diverse areas to consider. Horse Lake Road is a good example of an area where smoke can settle in the evenings when there isn't much wind. Everyone gets home around 5 p.m., Mingo said. Fires up their wood stove, and by 6 p.m. the smoke can be seen. Lamb agreed that wood stove smoke can sit on top of a low-lying area for quite some time in the winter. Part of the program involves a professor from the University of Northern BC who will visit 100 Mile once a year to calibrate the monitors and make sure they are running properly. The data relayed by the monitors will be uploaded to iqair.com for all to see in real time. Once installed, air quality will be examined and residents taught what is in the air and how it can affect lung health. Asthma camps for children ages 8 to 10 are the third part of the project. Currently, the camps are only accessible to those children living in the lower mainland. Lamb said they will be offering full subsidies to kids province-wide to make attending the camps possible for everyone. There is also talk of holding camps in 100 Mile at no cost to the district. Lamb asked the committee how best to get the information into the public's hands. He specifically wanted to know if there were public spaces available where town halls and asthma camps could be held. Al Richmond, Area G Director for the Cariboo Regional District, has himself developed an allergy to wildfire smoke after the last few years. Richmond and the other directors indicated a willingness to run further community meetings at local community halls to inform the public. There are a lot of communities around 100 Mile House, and I'm quite sure around this table that most of us could find you community halls in order to have your meetings, so people could meet in Forest Grove, Inner Lakes, and Lacklaw Hatch and 108 as well as the one in 100 Mile, Richmond said, answering the question. 6. Canada, Quebec. Quebec temporarily bans all wood fire appliances citing poor climate. https://thecountersignal.com/Quebec-temporarily-bans all-wood-fire-appliances-citing-poor-climate. Quebec has introduced a temporary lockdown on the use of all wood-burning appliances. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. February 8, 2024. The city of Quebec has temporarily banned citizens from using wood-burning appliances due to what they say is poor air quality. Quebec temporarily bans all wood fire appliances citing poor climate. This ban started Wednesday and includes appliances such as wood and coal stoves, wood-burning furnaces, as well as masonry and factory-built fireplaces. No specific date was given to citizens as to when the wood fire climate lockdown would be lifted. Jean-Pascal Lavoie, the spokesperson for the city, said the measure is just a temporary one for the benefit of the health of our citizens. Public health physician Dr. Robert told Le Journal de Quebec that the air had more fine particles than normal. Liberal Party claims wood-burning appliances lead to climate change. Recently, Quebec City has required citizens to register their wood-burning appliances to help limit CO2 emissions. Moreover, Climate Change Minister Stephen Guilbeault, a self-proclaimed socialist, recently announced he was investigating high carbon emissions caused by pizzerias and bagel shops due to their wood-burning ovens. 7. Texas Children's Hospital. Libelled climate scientist wins $1 million defamation case. RAWSEP View. This book describes how scientists are threatened, libeled, and unjustly defamed just for creating vaccines or teaching climate science. RAWSEP hopes that the climate science that Michael Mann teaches includes the fact that wood burning emits more PM 2.5 than the fossil fuel coal burning, and that wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel, natural gas burning. RAWSEP also believes that those who develop COVID-19 vaccines are heroes rather than opponents to be defamed. In advance of reading the book, RAWSEP believes the book may detail how the anti-science opponents of Mr. Hotez and Mr. Mann might have been trying to profit using polluting industrial practices, like fossil fuel burning and wood, biomass, burning, rather than clean energy practices such as use of wind, solar, and geothermal for energy, or even discouraging use of residential heat pumps whose price is lowered by rebates offered by the United States government for up to $8,000 per household in 2024. https://www.houstonChronicle.com/health/article/peter-oatz-michael-e-man-nu-book-e-8058053. PHP Peter Hotez teaming up with climate scientist Michael Mann on book about anti-science. This week, Mann won a $1 million defamation case. February 9, 2024. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Dr. Peter Hotez, who last year published The Deadly Rise of Anti-Science, will return to the subject of aggressive fervor against scientists with a new book and a new collaborator. Next year, Hotez will publish Under Siege, The Anti-Science Forces That Threaten Humanity with Michael Mann, a climate scientist who made news this week when he was awarded $1 million by a jury in a defamation case. Publishers Marketplace reported the news earlier this week, suggesting the book will frame anti-science forces as the greatest threat to humanity as we know it. Hotez is co-director of the Center for Vaccine Development at Texas Children's Hospital. He became a prominent advocate for vaccinations during the spread of COVID-19. Hotez and his team of scientists also led efforts to create a low-cost COVID-19 vaccine for low-income nations. More, Peter Hotez on these chuckleheads who attack science. Mann is a professor of climate science at the University of Pennsylvania. His case goes back a dozen years after two bloggers suggested he manipulated data in his studies. One compared him, in libelous fashion, in RAWSEP's view, because he taught climate science, to Jerry Sandusky, a convicted child molester and former football coach in Pennsylvania. 8. Research papers on PM 2.5. PM 2.5 in sports stadiums. An empirical study of indoor air quality in badminton stadiums in hot summer and cold winter nature. Indoor environmental parameters measured include air velocity, V, carbon dioxide, CO2 concentration, and particulate matter, PM 2.5 concentration. PM 2.5 inhalation when receptor that mediates inhalation is impaired. Beta-3 adrenergic receptor methylation mediates fine particulate matter inhalation impaired. Science Direct. CL treatment elevated ADRB3 expression levels in IWT by reducing DNA methylation. ADRB3 activation reversed PM 2.5, induced impairment of IWT9. Arizona on stricter EPA standards. What Phoenix residents need to know about stricter EPA pollution standards. ABC 15 Arizona burn rules in Maricopa County. If numbers don't change, Maricopa County Air Quality spokesperson Ari Halpert said residential wood burning is the #1 cause of fine particulate matter pollution in the Phoenix prepares as EPA tightens air quality standards, affecting Maricopa County residents' hoodline. This traps air pollutants and they may remain there for days, or even weeks, even after all the woodburning and the fireworks. 10. California on stricter EPA standards. California is ground zero for poor air quality. Map shows how it could get worse. San Francisco Chronicle. That's especially true for fine particles known as PM 2.5, found in wildfire smoke and vehicle exhaust, which travel deep into the lungs and slip into. California Environmental Law and Policy Update February 9, 24 Alan Matkins, J.D. Super. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, on Wednesday set tougher standards for emissions of fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, saying the California weather, upcoming storms could push some locations toward February records. San Francisco Chronicle. The Santa Clara Valley could be a bit hazy, particularly Monday morning, due to smoke from wood burning. The Bay Area Air Quality Management. Poor air quality is possible in the mornings due to wood burning, particularly in Emerald Hills, Woodside, and Portola Valley. New study warns of worsening air pollution in California due to wildfires. Xinhua scientists believe the two pollutants are most clearly linked to climate change. PM 2.5 is emitted from increasing wildfire smoke and higher ozone. 11. Colorado prescribed burn. Prescribed burn to take place in Lowry State Park Tuesday. Loveland reporter Harold burning and adequate smoke dispersal. CPW also warned that prescribed fire would smoke and your health. 12. Connecticut and burn off starts a prairie grass fire and a man killed in a house fire. Smoky skies. Prairie burn sends smoke over Hartford, affecting locals. Alton Telegraph Hartford. A prairie grass burn-off sent large clouds of smoke and ash blowing over Hartford, Wood River, Roxana and South Roxana on Tuesday. Connecticut. Ultrafine pollution enters tweed debate New Haven independent. The existing EPA standards are for PM 2.5, particles 25 times larger than those discussed in the article. Even if a full-blown EIS were conducted. Connecticut. Man identified who was killed in New Britain house fire on Hayes Street, New Haven register. She said the fire was contained to the first floor of the house, with smoke damage to the second and third floors. 13. Florida prescribed burn. Results of a prescribed fire. News. MidFloridaNewspapers.com. Mid-Florida Newspapers. We try to capture as much data as possible. He finished with a grin. And don't you just love the smell of wood smoke? Florida, Orlando. Smoke rises from fire at lumber yard near Lake Fairview. YouTube. Smoke rises from fire at lumber yard near Lake Fairview. WKMG News. 614. Indiana, Michigan City homeless camp. Wood burning, fire behind Walmart. Homeless camp fire behind Walmart. HometownNewsNow.com. Wood burning stove probably used in an effort to keep warm. The explosions heard by Walmart employees were likely from some of the propane bottles. 15. Michigan, Granville. Storage units lost in fire. Several storage units in Granville complex total loss in fire. WOTV.com. Smoke from a fire in Granville on February 9, 2024. Granville, Michigan. Wood. Several storage units in a Granville complex were a total loss. 16. New Hampshire wood burning heaters cause fires. New Hampshire wood stoves cause harm to human health. City of Nashua prepares for pre-Valentine's Day snowstorm. Patch fireplaces, wood stoves, and other fuel-fired appliances. Wood stoves, the most popular category of wood-burning heaters, cost thousands of. 17. North Carolina wood-burning heating system uncritically awarded $9,000, despite harm to human health. North Carolina, $9,000 grant for a wood-burning heating system. Petals and Produce awarded $9,000 grant. Washington Daily News. The company installed this wood-burning heating system about 15 years ago, becoming one of the first in North Carolina to adopt such an. 18. Oregon. City of Springfield changes debris burning policy, allowing no more green wood to be burned. RAWSEP View. Wood burning, whether green wood or dry wood, harms human health. City of Springfield changes debris burn policy to get rid of ice storm debris. Local. Kezi RAPA officials said they would monitor the air quality near Springfield, and if it gets too low, they would no longer allow green wood to be burned. 19. Utah. Salt Lake City struggle for clean air. The struggle for clean air. Salt Lake City's battle against chronic air pollution. Medriva particulate matter known as PM 2.5, or soot. This toxic microscopic particle is linked to numerous health maladies, including heart disease. 20. Vermont. RAWSEP View. Biomass burning at a library harms human health. Outdoor wood burning as well as indoor wood burning furnaces harm human health. Vermont. Biomass burning at Springfield Library harms human health. Biomass burning at Springfield Library. The Vermont Journal and the Shopper join an ecologist and landscape designer for a presentation on biomass burning. Discover the facts about burning wood for heat. New owners at New England Outdoor Furnaces put family first. The Vermont Journal and the Shopper. Vermont Journal. Newport, New Hampshire. A couple are finding the hands-on learning experience of being new business owners intriguing, especially since the. 21. Wisconsin. RAWSEP View. Biomass burning harms human health. A lumber company uses biomass to sell power to the electric grid. Kretz Lumber uses woody biomass to sell power to electrical grid. The Post Crescent Rolling. A 95-year-old sawmill business in northeastern Wisconsin can now generate enough power from burning bark and wood chips that it has how a 95-year-old Wisconsin sawmill used wood chips, bark to sell electricity back to the grid. Yahoo Finance. Rolling. A 95-year-old sawmill business in northeastern Wisconsin can now generate enough power from burning bark and wood chips that it has started. 22. Canada. A city's 2-day fireplace ban. A village's wood stove exchange program, with incentives on top of a rebate. City's 2-day fireplace ban first test of new measures. The Quebec Chronicle Telegraph. Wood burning stoves. City's 2-day fireplace ban first test of new measures was last. Canada, British Columbia. Cathet Regional District briefs. Powell River Peak amends Northside Fire Protection Bylaw. Offers wood smoke reduction program. Confirms wildfire response collaboration. Canada, British Columbia, Valemont. Village continuing to offer rebates for exchanging wood stoves. Yahoo News Canada. The village of Valemont is continuing its participation in the province's community wood smoke reduction program, CWSRP. Climate change strategy. The program aims to tackle both the environmental and individual health consequences of burning wood. On top of the rebate. 23. Australia, New South Wales, Armidale. Air quality on the radar at a council meeting. Improving air quality on the radar as part of council's future plans. The Armidale Express wood smoke particulate is known as PM 2.5 and is a known source of particle pollution. It is exacerbated by the city's topography where smoke settles. Air quality 2023 NSW Environment and Heritage Environment NSW Government. Some locations also experienced higher particulate pollution due to specific localized events, like smoke from wood heaters in Armidale, or higher. Improving air quality on the radar as part of council's future plans. The Northern Daily Leader. Armidale Council could explore banning wood heaters in new builds to address air quality and reduce pollution during winter months. 24. Montenegro. For people in a makeshift Romani settlement killed by a fire caused by a wood-burning stove. For killed in Montenegro Romani settlement fire, RFE/RL. 4 people were killed in a fire that broke out early on February 15 in a makeshift Romani settlement in the southern Montenegrin town of Bar. Vucinic said preliminary findings indicated the fire was caused by a wood-burning stove. Romani settlements in Montenegro and across the Balkans are. Montenegro is a country in the Balkans. 25. Azerbaijan. Tashkent is one of the world's most PM2.5 polluted cities. Tashkent once again ranks among the world's most polluted cities. Azer News. The concentration of fine particulate matter PM2.5 in the air amounted to 124.5 micrograms per cubic meter, which is 24.9 times higher than the recommendations of the WHO, World Health Organization. 26. Cambodia urged to join the Clean Air Strategy Initiative to reduce PM2.5 pollution. Cambodia urged to join Clear Sky Strategy Initiative, Khmer times PM2.5 pollutant. We are ready to support Cambodia in dealing with the problem together and provide clean air for all, he said. Prime Minister 6 months ago. Puljan Fatravat said closer PM2.5 pollutant. We are ready to support Cambodia in dealing with PM2.5. 27. China. Study finds suicide rate spike when air quality drops. Chinese study finds suicide rate spike when air quality drops. Science alert particulate matter in the air, known as PM2.5, by about 1%, Zhang and colleagues found. Previous research has shown how these small wildfires are associated with increased emergency department visits for anxiety disorders in nature. Notably, major smoke events, smoke PM2.5 contributed greater than or equal to 75% of the total PM2.5, significantly amplify this risk. These findings underscore the 28. India headlines. City air quality better than last year's. Expert Guwahati News. Times of India PM2.5. After receiving the grant, GMC has initiated water sprinkling programs on city roads for the dust particles to settle down. No study on air pollution's impact on cognitive decline. Yadav and RS. Hindustan Times. Higher exposures to PM2.5 pollution when children were 2 to 4 years old was associated with poorer child behavioral functioning and cognitive. Trial by waste fires leaves residents of Whitefield gasping for clean air. Bengaluru News. Times of India. My air purifier's index for PM2.5, an identified pollutant, is at 210. I had respiratory issues 10 years ago, but they have now resurfaced due to lung cancer in non-smokers. Exploring causes and risk factors. Times of India. The factors commonly associated are outdoor air pollution, second-hand smoke, domestic fuel smoke, wood burning, chronic pulmonary diseases. Lung cancer in non-smokers. Exploring causes and risk factors. Times of India. Environmental exposures such as asbestos, chromium, and arsenic are also linked to lung cancer. Chronic exposure to cooking fumes from burning wood or air quality. City's air quality index turns poor. Putna News. Times of India. The average concentrations of PM2.5 particulate matter less than 2.5 microns stood at 125 micrograms per cubic meter. G/M3, which is almost. Delhi's deadly air pollution prompts some to quit city. VOA News. The deadly ingredient in Delhi's air is small particulate matter called PM2.5, which gets embedded deep inside lungs. Chatterjee says children. The particulars of PM2.5, why particulate matter matters. Clean Technica. Likewise, PM2.5 is 2.5 microns or less across, although particulate matter aggregates to form the ghostly haze that hangs over New Delhi and other. 29. Thailand headlines. Bangkok implements work from home amidst pollution crisis. World News. Times now. PM2.5 particles by noon in certain locations. Employees in Bangkok City have been directed to operate remotely as excessive PM2.5 dust in 49 areas of Bangkok. Sunday. Thai PBS. World. PM2.5 Thailand. Weather. World's biggest flying lab comes to Asia on air pollution mission. February 11, 2024. PM wants governors to leave their offices to address PM2.5 problem. Thai PBS. World. PM2.5 PM Srethavasan, Thailand. February 15, 2024. Thai capital Bangkok reports unsafe levels of air pollution. Xinhua. Unhealthy to very unhealthy levels of PM2.5 pollutants, ranging from 58 to 105 micrograms per cubic meter, were detected in the Bangkok metropolitan. Thai capital Bangkok reports unsafe levels of air pollution. China.org.cn. Private sector and state agencies are urged to consider allowing their staff to work from home until the weekend as PM2.5 pollution in the Thailand, Chiang Mai. Smoke from forest fires covers Chiang Mai. Pattaya. Male. PM2.5 levels exceeded the standard at 3 points. Sri Phum subdistrict at 43.9 micrograms per cubic meter. At the Chiang Mai province office at 39. Thick haze continues. To blanket Bangkok. Unhealthy air spreads. Burnama. Particulate matter less than 2.5 micrometers. On Thursday, just detected 66 provinces in Thailand were shrouded with unsafe levels of PM2.530. Fool's Corner. Cheap customer refused to pay the fireplace installer, so he made sure his house twisted sifter ended up with a house full of smoke. A friend of mine used to install wood stoves and sell firewood. He still sells firewood but stopped bothering.